The Cawthron Institute is New Zealand's largest and most successful private research organisation. In 2021, it celebrated 100 years of service to the primary sector and environment through science. The Institute also has a history of achieving recognition for its work, winning 2 categories in the 2021 New Zealand Biosecurity Awards.
We had our 100th anniversary in 2021, starting off as a small lab with 5 employees back in 1921, and since developing into a large research institute with 300 employees, scientists, technicians and support staff. And what I find so fascinating is that we've been able to attract PhDs and other scientists from some 35 different nations around the world. And our population here now is mostly younger than 40, but we do boast with age groups ranging from 20 to our oldest employee who's 98 years old and who still comes in about twice a week to help us out. We've got this phenomenal purpose of world-class science for a better future and mainly cover healthy ecosystems, a prosperous blue economy and thriving people and communities. So our focus is very much on science around freshwater and the oceans and covering a wide array from analytical sciences like laboratory services all the way to social sciences where we work with communities and understand how they've impacted on the health of lakes, for example, but also understanding marine mammals, understanding how we can build a better aquaculture industry for New Zealand. So it's a very diverse, yet all focus on the oceans and our freshwater environment purpose that we follow here. If you consider the challenges that we have these days with climate change, feeding a population of 10 billion by 2050, I think it's really important for us to be relevant going forward, and then that would entail research into aquaculture. How do we utilize this vast ocean that we have here in New Zealand that is basically untouched compared to oceans around the world? We have diverse species here. Fishing nations around the world usually boast with about 10 different species. We have 130 species in our fisheries management system. We have almost 1,000 species of seaweed around our coastlines, and this is all untapped potential. If you consider what we can do with seaweeds, for example, from deriving proteins for human nutrition to identifying opportunities to reduce methane emissions in cattle with certain seaweeds, then there's a lot to do, and that's what we are basically focused on. One of the areas that Cawthron has really become very famous for is shellfish, our green shell mussels here. The fact that we harvest a lot of mussels now through aquaculture, and there are various elements to the research that we've done, starting with identifying exactly how the toxins in shellfish come about and how we can detect those without killing mice, which was done decades ago. You tested mussels with live mice, and if they died, you knew there was something wrong with your mussel. But these days, we've got other methodologies to do that, and Cawthron actually invented those, and they're applied worldwide now.
The only lab that could use a method like this to analyse mussel samples for the toxins.
It's definitely come a long way from the mouse bioassay, hasn't it?
Yeah. I started in January 1970 as a technician working for a chemist, and we were working on some of the projects, agriculture and horticultural projects around the Nelson area, and apples and hops, and work on the soils in Tākaka. And I got the opportunity to move into microbiology. So what are we doing this morning? Female scientist roles have changed. It was all very stereotyped when I started in the old building on the hill, and we had a big table in the tea room, and the men all sat round the table reading newspapers at morning and afternoon tea, and the women sat on chairs in the window area. So it was quite segregated. And the men had all the dominant roles. That's changed tremendously, yeah. It's been a really slow process, but over time, yes, it's amazing the change and the role that women play in this organisation now. Techniques, doing a good job there. Okay.
Funding for the Institute has, from the original bequest that we've received and that the Institute was built on from Thomas Cawthron back in 1921, has developed over time into a very different arrangement. Half of our funding is now almost from government, through MB funding or MPI, SFFF funding. These are all funds that are very much focused on developing new science or creating, in interaction with industry, new opportunities for our economy, down to projects with specific industry partners in order to further developments in an innovative arena. There's a lot of high-tech work happening out there to understand how we can farm offshore in, say, 10 kilometers distance or further without needing to be there on a daily basis. Autonomous vehicles, remotely controlled robots, and then data collection that's interpreted either via ocean-based buoys or satellite imaging to understand exactly what the environment out there is. And then to have the opportunity at very dynamic sea and storms to maybe submerge your whole aquaculture operation and still have it after that weather event. So it's fascinating, the diversity really that's being done here at Cawthron, from hatching a mussel on land to developing large structures at sea with all the high tech involved. Offers a very diverse spectrum of sciences, which I actually, by the way, also hope inspires young people to consider science future. There's never been a better time for science than now.